I bought a couple of bottles of Yarpova in a Chinese-owned discount store around the corner here in Brooklyn, and poured one out for Nemtsov, who ended his life as a Yaroslavl city councilman. I never liked him much, but his murder was brutal and frightening, and the dark fear it's brought to Moscow is very real. Nemtsov was a very different kind of liberal or ultra-liberal than what we think of as liberals. In the best sense, that means he was never a mealy-mouthed coward. But as one of the leaders of the 1990s liberalization catastrophe, Nemtsov was much more the problem than the solution to that problem. And even when he was in power in the late Yeltsin era, serving as the half-dead Boozer's first deputy prime minister and heir apparent, Nemtsov represented the very worst and shallowest in liberal Russia's virtual politics, a kind of precursor to the manufactured PR as politics that was perfected under Nemtsov's choice for Russia's president in 2000, Vladimir Putin. Boris Nemtsov first crossed my radar screen in early 1997, a few months after I launched The Exile in Moscow. He was hailed as the second coming of liberal Jesus by the cream of Moscow's foreign correspondent community, back when the American media still had the money to pack places like Moscow with full-staffed local bureaus. Not that all its staffing made their reporting any better. Most of the reporting was regurgitated neoliberal pamphleteering and peak Clinton jingoism, a case study in mass journalism malpractice. Every single Western reporter was completely blindsided by the 1998 financial collapse, at the time the most catastrophic and complete financial collapse in modern history, all except our annoying satirical rag. Which brings me back to Nemtsov, whom Yeltsin appointed as his first deputy prime minister in March 1997, just a couple of months after The Exile came to life. Everyone in the West went gaga over Nemtsov, the young handsome free market governor of Nizhny Novgorod. Larry Summers, who ran Clinton's Russia policy from his post as Deputy Treasury Secretary, hailed Nemtsov's appointment, sharing the first deputy premiership with Anatoly Bonekrakachudbai as an economic dream team. When Nemtsov traveled to Japan, he wowed the world media by telling a meeting of Japanese businessmen he'd give them his personal cell phone number to call him if they were having any problems doing business in Russia. Typical of the Anglo-American Nemtsov affiliate we were up against was LA Times correspondent Carol Williams, who cheered him on in language that reads like a cheap parody of Soviet propaganda. That was the cheerleaders' version, and it was backed by everyone rich and powerful the world over. Except in Russia. In fact, Nemtsov's Nizhny Novgorod miracle was, like everything else Nemtsovian, a matter of canny PR masking a brutal reality. Out of Russia's 89 miserable regions in 1996, when Russia was in the throes of the worst national economic collapse of any industrialized nation in the 20th century, Nizhny Novgorod ranked dead middle in terms of median income, despite attracting more foreign investment than almost any region. Nemtsov attracted foreign investment by reciting all the neoliberal platitudes in vogue in the 1990s, which made him a favorite of the World Bank's set. Nemtsov joined the Kremlin as the anti-corruption young reformer who promised Russia a fair, clean, Western capitalism. The first thing he did was push the law forcing government bureaucrats to ditch foreign cars for Russian Volgas, which just happened to be produced in Nemtsov's Nizhny Novgorod region. Then he lobbied through anti-corruption decrees that, upon closer reading, featured loopholes through which an entire fleet of Volgas could be driven. The decrees were supposed to end one of the worst examples of Yeltsin-era corruption, rigged tenders for state contracts. Nemtsov's reform decreed that in future, government tenders had to be open, transparent and competitive, except in cases when a closed non-competitive tender was deemed the best method. In other words, not only was nothing changed, but rigging tenders now were given legal gloss, thanks to Nemtsov.